Directed and co-written by Mark Cantu, we are talking Wolf Hollow, and this one stars Lynn Lowry and Felissa Rose, and this is a low-budget creature feature clearly about werewolves. So, what is the story? It focuses on a group of filmmakers as they are travelling to a rural location to try and shoot this kind of World War II movie in the kind of the woods somewhere. So they're travelling to this location on this kind of like bus with various kind of crew and cast to shoot this movie, and they are accompanied by this guy who has come from that area. However, they go into this location unknowing that the kind of the residents there, this family, are actually werewolves and are somewhat kind of territorial. Inevitably, things go slightly wrong and get rather bloody, you might say. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's discuss Wolf Hollow. Right, so this is quite a big VFX driven movie. Lots of kind of werewolf action on screen, lots of kind of practical VFX, lots of gore. So if you like spectacle and splatter, this is a good movie for you to check out, one would say. Let's go into a little bit more detail about what I think works in this film. So, and I think this is an interesting movie in some ways in regards to some plot ideas. The fact that this is the kind of the werewolves' territory, and they are kind of protecting their land, so to speak. Again, you're kind of going into that, you're feeding into that idea of that primal animal instinct, which I thought was quite good. The movie also has kind of a fairly kind of prominent B storyline, where this kind of werewolf family are ultimately having problems with other residents of this area, in particular the kind of the kind of the town council and the police, and we actually have effectively a separate kind of confrontation in their kind of police station where werewolves lay siege to this kind of this police station with all these cops in there. So that's kind of like a B storyline that runs parallel to our main storyline, which I thought was interesting. There are some kind of fun characters. We have this character called Steve, who's constantly doing kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions, and he's effectively your sort of comedy relief. But he comes across as quite a kind of a memorable character with some quite kind of fun lines. And if you're a fan of genre cinema, there's a kind of few winks and nods and kind of like little references that I think you'll enjoy. The werewolf VFX themselves, you'll see it quite a lot. There's quite a few scenes of these kind of werewolves fighting and ripping through kind of different kind of people. The werewolf makeup, the werewolf costumes were made by a company called Midnight Studios. Now I will say I did like the kind of the werewolf kind of costumes, but Midnight Studios, I believe, have been responsible for other werewolf movie costumes. So they kind of look a little similar. I'm kind of recognising some of these kind of costumes as they pop up in various kind of different unrelated kind of werewolf films. So they have a kind of somewhat similar feel to it, I have to say. So I'm feeling, these werewolf movies all have a kind of very similar looking werewolf because they're all using the werewolf costumes from the same VFX studio, which gives them this kind of like, have I seen this before kind of feel to it? But anyway, but they are good. I mean, they're not taking it away, they just kind of look a little bit the same. We do get quite a lot of kind of practical kind of gore here, which I think again is done to a kind of a good standard, and the movie is quite violent. I mean, there's quite a lot of kind of people getting gutted, arms kind of ripped off, things like that. So it's not like a kind of a film which is going to go, oh god, I can't watch it, it's so kind of like realistic gore depictions, but it is a kind of a lot of splatter and fun if you like a kind of a gory and a kind of movie, splatterfest movie. Once the movie gets going, it's kind of quite fast paced. It's quite a lot kind of like, once we have these kind of werewolf attacks start in earnest, it doesn't really kind of slow down. There's a little bit of a wait for it. We get a scene at the beginning, there's a little bit of a wait, but once we kind of get there, I think it kind of doesn't really kind of let up really. And you know, there are some elements, some interesting story elements that I did enjoy with it. So it doesn't work. I have to say, I think although this is a fun werewolf movie, I think the narrative is a little muddled, if I'm honest. I think the setup of the status quo of these werewolves in this area isn't quite established well enough. I mean, it seems like the humans, the non-werewolves, are aware that they are werewolves, but they somewhat let it slide. But it's not entirely clear about who knows what and how much they're putting up with and things like this. It's it's brought in, but I didn't really feel like it was particularly well established. It's not really well established how many people are in this family and how many werewolves there actually are. The relationship with this family of werewolves and their errant member who is with this film crew, again, I didn't feel was particularly well established, because he seems quite sort of against his family, but at the same time he's bringing his colleagues from this this film company to film on their land, clearly putting them in danger. But that's never really brought up. I mean, ultimately it's his fault these people end up getting killed, but it's almost, he's never really treated like he's at least somewhat responsible for this mess that they've got themselves into. I think, although I quite enjoyed the police siege element to it, again, it doesn't really feel like it added much to the story. As it ultimately you're following the main story with these film crew and stuff, and although the police obviously turn up in the movie, and help our film crew, I don't necessarily need to do their own storyline, because they could just turn up after a phone call. I didn't think we really needed that, and therefore it is taking time away from our main plot, where I feel things could have been better established. I didn't feel, maybe with a couple of exceptions, I didn't feel our characters were particularly memorable, and didn't really have, people were getting killed, and I was thinking, I don't really know how many people are in this film crew, and their roles and stuff. Again, it's just a little bit underdeveloped in certain areas. So ultimately, I think this movie, it's fun, and it's enjoyable for lots of werewolf action, albeit even though the werewolves, I think, are the costumes are a little familiar, but they still they still look good. There's still lots of practical gore. There's still lots of good kills, but the actual story that surrounds it is not bad. It's just a little muddled, if you ask me. It's just not particularly well established. I think the writing of this could have been better, if we're being honest. And there could have needed to be a little bit more set up, a little bit more stronger narrative through the movie, and a little bit more clearly defined roles for the characters and the situations that they're in. So, narratively it's a little messy. But, it has a low budget film. If you enjoy low budget, gory werewolf movies, then I suspect you might get a fun ride out of this one. It's a fun, enjoyable movie, albeit it has clear narrative problems. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Please do let me know, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.